If you've ever found yourself being totally in love with your partner, but both of you are still struggling to have a vulnerable conversation, no matter how hard you try, you have come to the right place. I am Dr. Sheena Glover, a couple psychologist, and I talk about relationship patterns like yours, and let's delve into what's going on. So here's the thing. You might find yourself asking, why is it hard for us to talk about things that really matter to us? There's a wide variety of conversation that is really difficult to have. It could be about your sexual intimacy, like in terms of frequency, quality, what you need out of sex. It could be about finances, relationship, or parenting. And these are very loaded topics for you. And when it comes to the time where you and your partner has to settle down and talk about it, it feels like a mess, or it gets quiet. There's no one giving you feedback and you're not giving them feedback. And thus everything gets really awkward or uncomfortable. And if you think about it, this feels really weird because you absolutely adore and love your partner, and vice versa. There's a friendliness, there's a friendship, there's kindness and respect. But when it comes to these very vulnerable and heavy topics, it feels nervous system wise incredibly difficult. One of the things that I notice is that conversations like these, where you find yourself having worry about how your person is going to respond to you in this particular topic, it starts from a place of, will what I bring up hurt my partner? And we become really preoccupied by that notion that anything that we talk about that is heavy or difficult has the opportunity to really hurt your partner, and that can immediately close us up. But then if you've also had experiences where it feels really uncomfortable, if something feels off about the conversation, you might not even want to have it because something viscerally doesn't feel good about it. So what is this all pointing to? And it has a lot to do with this thing called emotional safety. A lot of people assume that emotional safety, physical safety, or sexual safety, all of those things are three different components, but they're not. They actually feed into each other. And emotional safety is something that is absolutely needed in a relationship. And when I think about this, I see couples who have been together for a year or more or even longer, and I still see them struggle to talk about things that are difficult because they're uncertain about how their partner is going to be receptive to what they're going to say. So you get too caught up in whether or not, if I bring out my vulnerable feelings, it's going to hurt my partner, which is obstacle number one. And then you have obstacle number two, where it's like, oh, will my partner actually get it? Will they actually understand? And what if they don't? What does that mean for our relationship? So if emotional safety isn't about avoiding the conversation, what do we need to learn about emotional safety that can help us propel us forward to actually be more vulnerable in our communication with our partner? Okay, so let's imagine for a moment that you have had several attempts at trying to have a conversation about something difficult with your partner. And then when you have them, you come away feeling really nervous. Your body is very activated and you're like, okay, this did not go out the way that I intended. It doesn't feel good. And so I don't think I want this. So what's actually happening on a neurological level is that your brain is coding this in as something to be unsafe. And through repeated experiences, we start to anticipate what our partner is going to say or how they're going to react to us. And so over time, we don't even need to actually have the conversation with them because we just have to pull up any of the memories that we have. And then that alone can help to silence our desire to talk to our partners about it. So these repeated experiences that is happening in the relationship is the very reason why you feel unsafe because your nervous system is activated. And anybody who knows nervous system, we know that there's typically a 3 response method when we detect something that is unsafe, especially even in the emotional conversations. So we might fight, flight, freeze. And then the 4th one is fawning, where we kind of maybe placate and people please to the other person in order for the kind of the assessment of that threat to go down. So if these experiences are being encoded, it becomes automatic over time. It's not even consciously like I want to see my partner as unsafe. It's just that now my body feels so tense, my heart is racing, my hands are sweaty. And when I just think about having this conversation, that's my first physical reaction. Well, of course, you're not going to want to talk to your partner about it. And this is the first step. Learning how to identify the experience that you're having in your body from past experiences with your partner. One of the questions that you have to be willing to ask yourself is, when I bring up emotionally vulnerable topics to my partner, does it feel like we're on the same team? And this is where I ask both couples, if you were in couples therapy, what does that look and feel like? This is just something that most people don't realize, is that when something is working really well, people don't really encode exactly what it is that isn't going well. But we can definitely spend a long time talking about what is going wrong. We know exactly the look, the body language, the tone, the inflection, eye contact. I mean, everything. Because if you think about it, our amygdala is zeroing in on that threat. So we know exactly how to ascertain whether something is unsafe. But when something is safe, I see that couples oftentimes kind of accidentally stumble into it. So if you notice that you are on the same team and that you do feel safe, what does that also look like while you're in pursuit of figuring out what makes this experience unsafe? Because you're creating a nervous system map, if you will, about how to gauge conversations, how to gauge whether or not you are attuned to your partner or vice versa, and then how to know when you are feeling misattuned or you're misattuning to your partner. So this is an opportunity for the two of you to kind of look back to the last time you had a conversation that was really vulnerable. What went well and what didn't? And at what point did it go well versus when it didn't go well? And we don't realize how small things can pile up to the way in which we start interpreting whether something is safe or unsafe. In couples therapy, I do this a lot. I slow it all the way down to understanding how your body is sending signals to the way that you're interpreting it and what the messaging of that is, that then shapes the behavior. So this is something that will require a lot of practice, of course, but I want you both to be able to be self-aware so that you can be aware of how the dynamic plays out. If you are already taking stock of how emotional safety is maybe missing, or maybe it's present, but for this case and for this video, we're going to say that it's missing. How do you actually go about creating emotional safety? First, let me just kind of break the news. It is good news, is that everything that I'm talking about can be learned. While it is very important for you to know and understand your nervous system and how it gets activated, you also have to put it within the context of your relationship. And both of you are co-creating safety together. So the very first thing that you will need to do is have those hard conversations. I don't care if it takes hours. I don't care if there are long pauses, but you do not move until you actually have the hard conversation. And here's the thing, and this is the worst part of it all. You can't just have it one time. You have to have it multiple times. Why is that? If it took repeated experiences with your partner to encode in your brain that this wasn't safe, Well, you're going to have to recode that. You and your partner are going to have to work together to co-create emotional safety together. And so you need experiences of the difficult variety, of the vulnerable variety, and see how you both scaffold it together to build that emotional safety. It does not happen just because you decide to be emotionally safe and then, all right, now everything is okay. Nope, it has to be felt. And if you think about it, emotional safety is a felt sense. It tells you to move closer, to go deeper, to reveal more about yourself to your partner. And then other times it tells you, nope, I'm not going to say that. Nope, I'm not going to disclose this. You notice that you're kind of distancing. So if it is felt sense, you have to build that kind of intuition, that sensation in your body. So repeated experiences means more when you are actually putting yourself through the uncomfortable and letting yourself, both of you, work through it together. And then, sometimes I recommend couples to be able to say, hey, I'm with you. Hey, I'm not going anywhere. This is hard for me too. And I'm not gonna bail on this conversation. I think sometimes that would be nice because both of you are kind of coaching each other on, hey, please stay in this emotionally vulnerable moment with me, and I'm doing my best to hold that space for you. That's a lot of work, but I think that if you're already starting from a place of you absolutely love your partner, but you also know that this is so meaningful and it would advance your relationship even further, this is the kind of coaching, this is the kind of communication that you would want to borrow and incorporate into this relationship. Okay, so one of the ways that I like for you to incorporate it now, it's a bit of an exercise. The first one is I want you both to identify a difficult feeling that you struggle expressing to your partner. And I want you to be able to identify what it is about this emotion that is difficult. Now, difficulty is maybe found both inside and outside. And what I mean by that is that if you're already someone who struggles to show anger, because maybe you had a history where anger was not allowed in your household, well, then is it all your partner's fault or is it on your history? So you have to be able to see why this emotion is difficult. Is it first starting with me and my history, or is it being kind of pulled and triggered by my partner saying, I need to suppress it? Then you also want to be able to take an old moment in your relationship where that anger wanted to surface. And then what you do is you learn to just articulate what that emotion is, why it came up, and how it's felt in your body. Just that alone actually tells you and your partner so much about when you're having this emotional experience. And the other partner is just sitting there listening and just creating space. And you guys are going to take turns on this. So emotional experiences that you've had in the past that you can talk about and in past tense can actually help. Now, here's the caveat. Don't just go throwing in your opinions. Don't go and start projecting. What I mean by that is that can be really easy to start bringing up accusation, blame, criticism, judgment. We don't want that. What are we doing is letting that emotion that feels so heavy and difficult within us and between us, I'm going to talk about it and see how I can not only let you see it, but also for you to give me the space to actually express myself. And if you guys can actually work on this kind of realm, it makes it so that, say, for instance, there is a really difficult conversation up ahead about finances. Finances makes you feel really shameful, makes you feel really embarrassed. To be able to just say, like, right now, I feel so shameful talking about finances because I always feel so inadequate and I feel this pit in my stomach. If you can start saying that, your partner has learned to hear emotion and not go into reaction mode, but creating space and listening mode. If this conversation resonated with you, I make more videos like this. And if you are trying to get a better understanding of your relationship in a more structured way, try out the Relationship Alignment Index found on my webpage. It is a 80-question questionnaire for both couples where you can look at 6 major domains in your relationship and see how you align. And if there are any misalignments, not only will the Relationship Alignment Index talk about it and help you understand why it is, but it can also teach you how to work through it. Thanks for spending time with me, and I will see you on the next video.